Hello, Mayor Holmes. How are you? Can you hear us?
Good. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just trying to figure out how to turn the volume up on this thing so I can
Okay,
hear you
perfect.
better.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's Tuesday, January 20th. This is our regular council meeting. Calling the meeting to order at 1 o'clock. Corporate Officer, do we have any late items? No? Okay, I should also say that this meeting is being recorded live and is being streamed on the District of Summerland YouTube channel. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and will be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Council, can I get an approval of our agenda today? Council Betts, Councillor Barkwell, all in favor? Great, thank you. On to our consent agenda. Council, is there anything that you wanted to remove? Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you. I've got a couple pieces here. I'd like to remove item F from the OPWB and item M from the Ministry of Citizen Services.
Sorry, which item was that? That was invasive.
F and M.
F and M, okay. So those will go down to section 11. And Councillor Barkwell, did you have something?
Yes, sorry. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move item J concerning the speculation and vacancy tax.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we've got F, J, and M. Mayor Holmes, did you want to remove anything?
No.
No, okay. Okay, great. Can I get an approval of our consent agenda? Councillor Peak, Councillor Patton, great, all in favor? Perfect. All right, moving on to the mayor's report. So our mayor is joining us today on Zoom. Go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to wish everyone a happy new year. As we step into 2026 and the final months of our term, we can look forward to the completion of some exciting projects and the realization of our key council priorities. Most of those projects and priorities were on display at the budget open house on January 14th, which was attended by all members of council and District of Summerland senior management. This year, the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen, School District 67, and the Okanagan Regional Library also participated in the open house, providing a complete picture of all aspects of local government operations within Summerland. It had to be one of the best attended open houses we've had, and with more than 100 people in attendance. I'd like to thank all members of the public who came out to learn and ask questions about how our tax dollars are being invested in the community. Following public feedback, which we continue to receive, the budget will return to council at our next meeting on February 10th for consideration of third reading. Progress is also being made on the regional district budget, and first reading was passed at the January 8th board meeting that was attended by Councillor Barkwell and myself. At that meeting, the board also approved a request from the Okanagan and Similkameen Invasive Species Society to ask the Provincial Ministry of Forests to list an additional 10 species to the BC Weed Control Regulation Schedule A, including the tree of heaven, Siberian elm, and Russian olive. The province has not updated the list of noxious weeds since 2012, but a detailed review of the regulation is currently underway. This presents an opportunity to make submissions for additions to the list, which would mean provincial funding would be available to help control them. The RDOS board also discussed formulating an artificial intelligence usage policy following a 1-month pilot to evaluate the usefulness of Microsoft 365 Copilot. The pilot of Copilot, if I can say that, concluded that productivity gains could be realized using AI, and the board has asked staff to bring back a draft usage policy to its January 22nd meeting. The board also received a summary of Freedom of Information requests received by the RDOS during 2025. In total, there were 62 formal requests to access RDOS records, which is double than previous years. Many of the requests were in respect to neighbor disputes, and there were 10 requests regarding the Sage Mesa water system. On January 12th, Deputy Mayor Trainer, CAO Stat, and I attended an interorganizational meeting for the purpose of creating a youth suicide prevention and response plan for Summerland. Meeting participants included representatives from the Canadian Mental Health Association, the Child and Youth Mental Health Division of the Ministry of Health, Interior Health, RCMP, School District 67, the Summerland Secondary School PAC, the Summerland Child and Youth Committee, One Sky Community Resources, and the District of Summerland. I'd like to thank the Deputy Mayor for chairing this very important discussion. Finally, this past Friday, January 16th, the district hosted a town hall style open house on farming that was attended by most of council and District of Summerland senior management and about 50 local farmers. I shared a few opening remarks about the Food and Innovation Hub and about our proposal to the province for an agricultural municipalities initiative, and our Director of Utilities, Jeremy Storveld, addressed the current drought situation. But primarily, the open house was an opportunity to hear directly from farmers and have an open and frank discussion on all things agricultural in Summerland. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for Mayor Holmes? No? Okay. Over to the CAO for his report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Last week, we posted a video on the great work accomplished in 2025 by council and staff working together for the community. From roads to parks to policy updates to community engagement opportunities. A link to the video can be found on the district website or on Facebook or our Instagram program for those who would like to even learn more about the details. And a detailed presentation can also be found in the materials of today's council meeting regarding the Committee of the Whole. All of these efforts and improvements are linked to council's public posted 2022 to 2026 strategic priorities. Looking forward for this year, in the coming months, we're going to be starting up on a couple of projects, including road reconstruction and the paving and the multi-use pathway continuing on Victoria Road south to the Oval About, or rather north to the Oval About. This project has received $1.5 million in grants and includes the important work of separating the agricultural water and drinking water lines there. This year, we will also be tendering and installing the new Peach Orchard Playground. We'll continue to monitor and support the work on the snow course survey. And this year, we also have added this information on the main page of the district website for ease of reference. We continue to be in stage 4 drought, and it is hoped that through this winter period, if we can call this winter right now, we will see more normal snow accumulations in the headwaters, which will help refill our reservoirs. As we approach June, things will become more clear, and we'll continue to keep the community updated through our district channels and that time period as that critical month approaches in June. The new 4-season washrooms has arrived and are being installed at the Veterans Memorial Way in the new plaza there. Once installed and operational, we'll notify the public. These washrooms will offer residents and the traveling public a new amenity, facilitate their enjoyment of downtown year-round. The change also addresses a need the downtown business community has identified for a long time, and that is to support their customers who shop downtown year-round with these washroom facilities. The winter hours for the washrooms will be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day, and the seasonal washrooms in Memorial Park will reopen again on April 15th. Finally, just a reminder that free fare passes for transit are now available for residents. Come on down to Municipal Hall or the Aquatic and Fitness Center to get yours today. That'll conclude my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for our CAO? No? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much for that report. We're moving on to delegations, and today we have Marina Zurello. I hope I said your name right. From the Summerland Community Arts Council. She's here to provide an update for council. Welcome. Thank you. Yeah, and begin whenever you're ready.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us. Before we begin, please feel free to interrupt us with questions. me with questions. At any point during the presentation, as this is to be an open dialogue, following our meeting on October 7th, we are here today to present a fundamental reset of the Arts Council. We fully recognize and appreciate the district's recent support as a critical bridge, and that bridge leads to a future of stability, accountability, and a stronger arts ecosystem for Summerland. There we go. That's the wrong one. Better. Excuse me. By securing the $8,500 grant and aid advancement and the $3,000 deferral on the rental space, it allowed us for a critical reorganization without operational downtime. We successfully stabilized internal operations and maintained all our core programming with the district support. The Light Up the Arts sale and the sold out raffle demonstrated community engagement and volunteer commitment. This shows a strong public interest and a reliable donor engagement, as well as a clear path for expansion and long-term stability. So the restructuring roadmap is in 3 phases. The first phase is actively diversifying the board by onboarding members with specific financial and strategic skill sets. Phase 2 is a narrowed focus on revenue generation. And the third phase is transitioning from rapid response to long-term financial stability and growth. So in addition to our roadmap, we are implementing governance and structural reform, new financial reporting tools to ensure that our data is clear and complete for full transparency, new policies to prevent unapproved data changes, and to protect financial records, and to ensure all leadership is equipped to provide oversight through required financial literacy training. This will be provided at the annual board members onboarding session. So we do that once a year as we elect a new board. We are actively pursuing a financial oversight committee to provide accountability in addition to long-term planning and financial strategy. And we are actively recruiting now for a qualified treasurer to lead the fiscal strategy. No questions? Okay. All right, organizational stability. In addition to financial oversight, we are focused on organizational stability. So we've introduced a past president's role with a 1-year term. This ensures that as leaderships change, we don't lose our institutional memory, and new leaders aren't starting from scratch, but instead are building on the work of those before them. And in the same spirit of continuity, we have removed the 4-year maximum term limit for board members. While we are recruiting for new voices and fresh perspectives, we need the option to retain our most experienced members at this time for restructuring. Finally, we are maximizing potential through strategic funding plan. It isn't just about grants, although we are expanding our scope. It's about diversification. We are actively pursuing partnerships with foundations and targeted sponsorship plan to ensure we have multiple resilient revenue streams. With the roadmap and governance set, we are moving into the execution phase. I'm pleased to share that the 2026 budget has been approved by our board. To ensure our story is communicated effectively, we have onboarded a new communications director. Their first priority was to do a comprehensive communications audit to be followed with a SWOT analysis. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This gives us a clear understanding of our strengths and weaknesses, ensuring every message we send to the community and our partners is clear, consistent, and impactful. We've hired a commission-based fundraising associate, aligning their success directly with the organization's growth. We are implementing a new volunteer recruitment strategy to re-energize our local support. And as mentioned earlier, we are successfully onboarding new board members to lead these initiatives. So in short, we have a budget, we have a communication strategy, and we are gathering team members to move forward from planning to results. Beyond our internal projects, we are engaging our community partners. Whether it's through books, history, or public art, we are leaning into local partnerships to maximize our impact. So we are doing a joint local authors fair with the library. This is scheduled for April 18th. And our goal here is to provide a platform for local talent and strengthen the connection between local literature and the community. And it's a good opportunity for cross-promotion. We are investigating a joint event to support BC Culture Days, featuring the Pierre family and centering our program around the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And we have been assisting the Legion with their 100th year anniversary, and they are looking to do a mural, as a commemorative mural. And we've been doing some work with them, trying to find local artists to support that effort. All right. Okay. So my questions are out to you now. Do you have any suggestions, recommendations, ideas for improvement regarding any of the material presented today? And also, do you have any community connections that we should look into, pursue, start working on?
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure.
Council, go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It looks like you've been getting lots of work done behind the scenes during this transition time, which is just so important for the organization moving forward. To me, it seems like getting just a different group of people getting involved on the board with just different types of expertise is going to benefit the organization. Working towards a plan, both with communications and fundraising, and partnering with other foundations, like that's exactly, I think, the direction that will benefit the Summerland Arts Center or the Arts Council, and then in turn residents of Summerland. And then having budget plan and people in place, I think will allow the group to grow and continue to offer some of the great things that are being offered, and continue to grow those programs. Nice to hear that you're partnering with the Legion with their 100-year celebration. So I don't have a specific direction to send you in terms of specific volunteers or foundation leads. I wish I did, but it sounds like for me, I'm really just kind of relieved to hear that there's a strategic plan really being implemented and brought together by members of the team, and I really do wish the group a lot of success and just forward momentum from this point. But I don't have a great question.
Okay, any other feedback? Go ahead, Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for your strategic plan. One thing that the Art Council does have is a permanent collection, and a lot of that permanent collection was donated money-wise by Peter Hay and his wife Dorothea.
Right.
I don't hear anything in your strategic plan on cataloging, how much that is worth, that artwork that's there. Can you just give an idea if you have a plan, or if there is a plan, or if you're just looking at getting financially stable since what happened in 2025 with your budgets, or if, in the case if you're just planning on getting stable this year before you can address the other outlying issues.
Okay, so regarding the permanent collection, I talked about bringing out a commission fundraiser, and one of the ideas is actually leveraging that collection in terms of renting out the artwork in certain places. For example, if someone was staging a home or that kind of thing, just to get some momentum and moving it in that space. So that's the short-term plan at the moment, to see if that's a viable option for revenue generation. The permanent collection, we do have it cataloged. It's available online from the website. And as the pieces come in, they are appraised at their value when they come in, but there would be work and cost associated with getting it appraised now. So we do have some restricted funds, thanks to Peter and Dorothea. I don't know if, we could approach them and ask them if they would be willing to let us use those restricted funds to do an appraisal, to see what it's worth. Yep.
Thank you. Now, these new positions that you're looking at, are they paid positions or are they volunteer positions?
The outside of the commissioned fundraiser, and she only gets paid whatever she sells, it's all volunteer.
Thank you.
Mayor Holmes, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I do, thanks. I was trying to find this raise hand button. I couldn't find it anywhere. So Maria, in terms of rather than us, you asked for suggestions, but I guess the main thing for us and is if there just to keep the communication line open with our Director of Community Services with the municipality in terms of what it is that you think we should be doing to help you more and to help that building become more useful for the arts and and in terms rather than just I understand the funding part of it, but is there things beyond the funding where we could be helping? I think that's that's what we kind of that's what I'd like to know.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but now that I know that the door is potentially open.
Yeah,
it's certainly worth exploring and taking it back to the board for discussion.
I think that's the main message I like to get, is rather than wait for something to become a crisis. If there's difficulties happening, we should be there to help you through those before they become something major.
Okay, thank you.
Marina, when it comes to volunteers, are you, is the Arts Council having difficulty getting new volunteers, or are you finding that there's still a community interest in supporting arts?
Both. I would say, we've had, we've brought on a new board member recently, but there's still a number of positions, including leadership positions, not just board positions, that need to be filled. So we need to work on getting those committees up and running and functioning. So I'm open to suggestions for gathering volunteers and getting their attention. We have been putting it out on our social media and that kind of thing, and word of mouth, but.
Okay, anybody else? Any comments? Go ahead, Councillor Peak.
I'm going to piggyback on your question and what Marina has said too. We used to sponsor sort of a volunteer open house for all kinds of organizations, and I think there's been some discussion about it, but it is perhaps something that we could encourage happening from our end and make it collective, and I think that might be useful. And it gives people a chance to find out what is involved in being a volunteer, and you have a chance to look at more than one organization. So where one might not fit you, another one might. And I think they were effective when they've done them. So I think that might be something we could encourage happening again.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I like that the Arts Council is collaborating with other organizations in Summerland. A lot of times there's, cross energies and, you find out something that they're doing, they find out something that you're doing, and you can work together. So I think that's a really good idea, because we are a small town, and there are only so many volunteers. So if you can, and members able to join these organizations. So I think if you can work together, maybe you can get some more things done. So,
Thank you.
yeah, go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm kind of piggybacking off the idea from Councillor Peak about having, I don't know how the district would be really a facilitator for bringing together volunteer organizations rather than, perhaps providing a vehicle or a space in which to do it. But maybe that's something that like one of the boards would be willing to take on, is connecting with other volunteer boards and saying, hey, like let's maybe organize an event, talk to the district, and maybe we can help make that a reality for the volunteers in our community. I think that one thing I've observed is that since COVID, it really interrupted the volunteer intake. And that is seen across organizations of every level. Deputy Mayor Traynor and I are both, presidents of PAC now. We're doing what we can in our communities, and the need to bring other people in, whether they're retirees, parents, understanding the work-life balance. It's like there's a real opportunity to maybe generate some excitement about what it is to be a volunteer and how much it matters. So maybe we need a volunteer board to bring everybody together. That's you guys. And so that we can get behind a plan like that, because I think you'd see support there.
Okay.
It's an idea. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. And like Mayor Holmes said, I think it's really important that we continue to have a good dialogue between council and the district and the Arts Center, just so we all know what's going on, and let us know if we can support you in any other ways. And yeah, maybe we can look into doing some kind of volunteer fair. I think that would be a really good idea. And the thing is that in our community, if we want organizations like yours, we all have to step up, every single one of us, to volunteer and give back. So, yeah.
If I
Okay.
may, can I ask
sure.
one more question? Okay. I guess Nada was here in December for the grant and aid presentation. And so I was inquiring if there are any grant and aid funds available left over, allocation, if you would consider the Summerland Arts Council for that. And I can just leave that there. You don't have to answer right now, but.
CAO, all of the grant and aid has been allocated for the year. Is that right?
Thank you, Madam Chair. All but a small portion, which we sometimes hold back for like high school teams that make it to championships and stuff. So the next intake would be for fall of 2026, and then cutoff usually around September, October. It's on the website.
Yeah, we just have a very small amount left. So definitely apply again next year.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Peak had a question?
I did. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. It was my understanding when we looked at the grant and aid that the request was to make sure that we heard back from the Arts Council, and that there may be some funds in the grant and aid available to them, with a presentation coming forward that would satisfy the things we were concerned about. So perhaps staff could check that out.
CAO, do you recall that?
Just seeing if thank you, Madam Chair. Just seeing if our Director of Finance is on the call at the moment, so might be listening from his office. Dave, if you're there.
Or Mayor Holmes, are you there? Do you recall that?
Not offhand.
Okay.
Yes, I am here.
Okay. Did you hear Councillor Peak's question?
I did hear the question, and unfortunately, off the top of my head, I can't actually remember. I do have some extensive notes, and I do know that the Arts Council did receive an additional amount of money. Again, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but council did allocate a little bit more money to them outside of the prepayment that we gave them last year. So I do need to look into those things, but as our CAO mentioned, there are not a lot of funds left over. I believe there's about $1,200 left in the grant and aid budget, which council usually holds for those sports organizations. But again, I'll need to delve into that a little further.
Okay, we can get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Okay, we're moving on now to our public comment period. We have 15 minutes and each speaker is entitled to 2 minutes, and you can speak to the items on the agenda. Go ahead, Marianne McDonald. You can state your name and your address. Thank you.
Just a minute. I have to wear glasses to see what I wrote. So, first of all, Marianne McDonald, 6505 McDonald Place. This is concerning 4.4 on the agenda regarding the letters for various communities in opposition to Bill M216. Both Quesnel and Central Saanich and others have stated this legislation represents a significant overreach in municipal jurisdiction and undermines the democratic principles that guide local governance. The bill would erode the decision-making authority of locally elected councils who are directly accountable to their communities and best positioned to address local needs. Quesnel, for example, similar to many other rural and remote municipalities, is experiencing an ongoing shortage of professionals located in or who are familiar with the community. Having registered professionals hired and paid for by a development applicant and working on their behalf creates a serious conflict of interest. And I think we've seen that in this community in recent years. The bill is flawed, and the government has not considered the smaller communities with limited staff and resources as opposed to urban centers. I have two wishes of council. One is to endorse and add your letter of opposition to these community letters, and secondly, to be a reminder that smaller communities and districts collectively should be more vocal when it comes to pushback with government regulations. Our government is voted in and needs to be accountable to its citizens in all areas of the province. Councils across BC should and could be that voice for its citizens. When our voices go unheeded, it is suggestive of authoritative rule. And the second one is tonight's thing, and I won't be here, so I'm going to say it now. And of note, the Hillborn property has been non-compliant for more than 2 years, not just 2 years. I say it's time to pull the plug.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? No, seeing none. Okay, thank you, Marianne. So moving on to our business items now. 9.1 is capital projects update. Joe, that's yours? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A brief update from the last.
If I could just jump in with some opening remarks, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, if that's okay. I just wanted to provide a little bit of opener in terms of the intent of these reports and what's changing. So the intent of these reports, as we talked about before, is to, to the extent possible, create a no surprises environment, which I think we've done pretty good at. But we can never promise there will never be any surprise. We're just working hard to be open communications on these things. So when we know, you know, on a major project, if some course correction needs to take place. We will begin reporting on the Victoria Road project, and that's the extension of the existing improved portion of Victoria Road South all the way now to the oval about. We're going to start reporting on that at the February 10th meeting. And at that time, we're also going to be bringing back an update on the project that was originally tendered, including its cross sections and plans, because council had some questions and wanted some reminders during the budget conversation. So we'll be doing that as kind of a kickstart to that. And then you'll start to see that project appear on these reports as well. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for the opportunity to do so. Back over to our Deputy CAO.
Thank you, Graham, through the chair. Just a brief update. Graham gave a bit of an update on the Wharton project in his CAO report, but as everybody's seen, the washing facility was brought in since our last meeting. There's a few pictures in the report. It was quite the scene bringing a washroom over top of the streetlights and everything, but it's there. We're just getting it. It's all plumbed in now. The electricity's to the facility. We're just working on the paver stones around the front and along the side, some railings, a couple other small items before we can get them open to the public, but we'll be sure to let the public know once they're up and running and open for regular use. Once that's completed, we've just got a few more items we're working on in that square, including the misting station. There's some rocks that'll be brought in for that. There's catenary lighting, the overhead catenary lighting that'll be brought in over the next little while, and a few other surface works things. And then as soon as the weather, well, if the weather's good now, but if there's another cold following that, we'll put in the last of the landscaping so that it doesn't freeze for the year. And that component of the project will be finished. There's still a little bit of work that's being done, electrical works near the electrical substation that'll be wrapped up, and that should complete the project.
Any questions? No? Okay, continue.
Thanks, Joe. So on to the clarifier project. So there's been good progress over the last month. We did have Christmas break in there, but most of the concrete work is complete. We're at 54% completion based on the schedule and 39% actual spend. I guess the big change for us down at the clarifier and at the wastewater plant is we have the contract administrator working from our office down there. So he's parked there and spending more time on site, which is great to see at no additional cost to us. He's serving other clients from that desk, but when he's working on our project, he's just charging for the time working on our project. But it's good to have him on site, keeping a close eye on things. The contractor has put a lot of work into maintaining schedule, so there's been no schedule slippage from our last discussion, and they're still sitting at about 2 weeks behind. But nothing that's impacting us operationally, and things are moving along down there with the good weather. I mean, it's been pretty good. That's all.
Okay, any questions for Jeremy? No? Okay. Anything else? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Patton, or sorry, Councillor Barkle.
I just want to say I appreciate these reports. It's no surprises is always the best thing to hear. Although then you can be surprised that it actually finished under budget and on time. And I appreciate that we're going to get a chance to review the Victoria Street project, and now you can sort of look at the plans and relate it to works that's already been done and get a better understanding of what we're looking at in the drawings and stuff. And it's nice to, it was a long time ago that we looked at things, and it's good to have another view and update.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you very much, Deputy Trainer. I think that these reports, particularly around the clarifier, really bring it home to me where how many years we went looking for grants to make this possible. And we just decided to bite the bullet and get on with it and do it. That these things are really, really important, that those systems are primary to the work that we do, whether it's waterworks or whether it's looking after the sewage and solid waste. So I'm really glad that we actually went ahead and did that, and it will be completed this year.
Good. Okay, so seeing no further comments, can we get a motion to receive this for information? Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Betts, all in favor? Great, thank you. Okay, so moving on to Giants Head Elementary Playgrounds. This is over to Lori.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trainer. Good afternoon, Council. At Council's request, staff have requested and negotiated an agreement with School District 67 to take on responsibility, liability, and maintenance of the Giants Head Elementary School's 2 playgrounds. The proposed agreement includes the following terms: non-exclusive license to occupy the playgrounds, access and use of the playgrounds for recreational and athletic purposes for the benefit of the public, a 1-year term commencing on February 1st, 2026 until January 31st, 2027. Under mutual agreement, an opportunity for extension of the term for a further period provided at no time will the extended term exceed 5 years. a license fee of $1 plus applicable taxes, termination clause by either party at any time. Playgrounds will be under the care of the District of Summerland, including inspections, maintenance, collection of litter, and garbage and recycling pickup. And there are District of Summerland insurance and indemnity requirements. There is $10,000 allocated in the 2026 operating budget for the general maintenance and upkeep of the playgrounds. Should any significant playground repairs be identified through the agreement term, that will require further discussion and may require additional funding. The agreement with detailed terms and conditions are attached to the council report, and staff require a council resolution to proceed with the execution of the agreement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laurie. I just have a question. I read over the lease last night, but maybe I missed it. If the school board leases the building, will they let us know who they're leasing it to?
Through to council, I am not sure there is anything in there that indicates what they'll be doing if they do that. So I'd have to reread it and look. I don't recall anything specific around that.
Okay, I guess I'm just asking, so because say they lease like a couple rooms to a daycare, and then the daycare is using the playground too, but we're paying for the upkeep of the playground. Would the school board ask the daycare to kick in to the upkeep of that playground too? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just, if something changes with the property, like right now, we're committing to looking after it, but I would just like to know kind of the full picture of what's going on there if anything happens to change.
Through to council, I could request that if there are any leases of the facility that they let us know, and then at that time we could have a discussion as far as how to move forward. We do have the ability to terminate the agreement at any time, so if they give us notification, then we can look at who is renting the facility and have a discussion around that moving forward.
Yeah, because if a private daycare came in and then they were using the playground, but they weren't contributing to its upkeep, then we would be supporting that business. So I just want to be careful of that. Any other questions? So Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm kind of a different view with that, because if you think about, there's a daycare in the Broad Street building that go to Memorial Park multiple times a day and aren't required to pay because their parents live in Summerland and pay taxes towards the maintenance of those parks and playgrounds. So I would take it to be much the same thing if there was a leasee who was a daycare in the school. They would be using those playgrounds. It's if it's exclusive use. If other children aren't allowed to use it when they're there, then that's different to me. But in this circumstance, it wouldn't be, but that's my interpretation. I actually had a different question. Mine, Lori, was about if the school, say at the end of the usable life of the playground, if we can't repair certain things, is there any language about responsibility of cost of removal?
Through Deputy Mayor Trainer to Councillor Betts, there is no language as far as what happens when they're deemed at end of life. So right now, we have an agreement for 1 year. I think if we found that something failed, we would go back to them and have a conversation on what we would do about that, if it's worth repairing or if we want to enter agreement or who would be responsible. But at this point, there is no language as far as removal of the equipment there.
Right, and just, I mean, at the end of the day, they technically own the asset and we are just leasing it and maintaining it. So they would hold that responsibility. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of think about that a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the staff recommendation.
Seconder, Councillor Betts. Mayor Holmes, do you have a comment at all?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, I'm just checking in with you every so often in case I missed something. Any other comments? So we have a mover, a seconder, go ahead.
Thank you. I just would like to take the opportunity to thank everybody for supporting this this move that we're going to maintain this playground equipment. I think it's really, really important. And I just really appreciate on behalf of families with kids and grandparents who have grandchildren around here that's a really good playground. And we need to have good playgrounds. So thank you.
I think it also helps transition with the school closure, that a lot of the kids are still very attached to that playground and that building. So it kind of allows them to continue using that. It's like such an asset for our community. So Councillor Pete, go ahead.
I agree with your statement, Deputy Mayor. In fact, having taken the grandchildren back there, the youngest said, "Oh, I thought this whole thing had disappeared and I couldn't come here anymore." So he was most surprised that it was still there and he could go and do things there.
Good. Okay, so we've got the motion on the screen there, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Nope, that carries unanimously. Okay, great. Moving on to the downtown Summerland parking feedback. And I'll go over to CAO Stat to introduce this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to kind of talk about both 9.3 and 9.4 in my opening remarks, although I know we're handling them separately, but I won't be talking again before 9.4, so I'll just do my thing now. So in 2025, major work was done in the downtown, which resulted in about 10% less parking in the downtown area being available for a period of time. As a result, we put an increased focus on compliance with our parking rules to ensure we maximize the use of the spots in the downtown. We received a lot of feedback, and so we thought it'd be good to bring that back to council for your awareness and for discussion, perhaps any direction you might have for us in terms of our overall approach going forward. And at the same time, council had previously indicated that we should be operating on a cost recovery basis for our patio program. So we now have some information on what that would look like on a cost recovery basis for that. It's not currently operating on that cost recovery basis. And now is the time, if there is a desire to make any changes based on this feedback, as the 2026 season will soon be upon us. So now's the time, if council would like to introduce any changes to the way we approach these things or has any other direction for us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Darren, our bylaw officer.
All right, thank you, CAO Stat and council for this opportunity to discuss these feedback. Yeah, so due to the construction, we converted to proactive enforcement of the existing time-limited parking downtown. Previously, we'd been doing that on a complaint basis as per the bylaw enforcement policy. Through that, we found there were a significant number of employees and volunteers parking in the 2-hour parking for the duration of their shifts. And we think maybe there might be an opportunity to look at some of their concerns that were raised, and then, you know, while also keeping that parking available for patrons of the businesses. So some of the feedback included, and this isn't everything, some of it isn't maybe appropriate to share in public, the feedback received, but the rest, this is sort of just a generalization of what we received. The feedback is, you know, 2 hours isn't enough time for someone to visit all the businesses downtown, especially if they want to get something to eat. The salon clients frequently, or their appointments are longer than 2 hours and quite often longer than 4. The owners and employees and volunteers were using the 2-hour parking, and they were asking, well, where can we park that's close to here? Some of the volunteers being seniors walking from Brown Street parking lot, they felt was too far. We had a suggestion to create some kind of a permit system for employees and businesses of downtown. These next two are regarding patios, which will be coming up next with Annika. But the patios reduce the parking and make it difficult for when installed over the angle parking. There were a few that came in of people who ran into them, which I think supports the fact that we have the cement barriers instead of just railings in those parking spots. Another complaint was businesses wanted to be able to reserve the spots right out in front of their locations for their clients. We're allowing restaurants to do that with the patios, but we weren't allowing that for the other businesses, and they didn't consider that to be fair. And then feedback that was on social media is people saying they would, with the 2-hour limit, they didn't want to risk a ticket. They would just come one store and then leave, knowing what they wanted. They wouldn't browse, they wouldn't shop. They didn't want to take a chance of a ticket. And while this one wasn't included because it's not something that was feasible for the district, it wasn't included in the report, we actually did have a few people suggest they'd pay parking, especially after the first 2 free hours. From a cost recovery basis, I don't think we would make enough money on that to even approach cost recovery. And I think supporting downtown with free parking is something that we can look at or should really be supporting. So I did not include that, but I wanted to mention that. So if we look at the current available parking downtown, we have a significant number. Actually, it doesn't, you might not realize how many we have. So I believe, I fortunately can't see that from here, it's 360 stalls of 2-hour parking. We have the 30 stalls of 3-hour parking at the Victoria parking lot by the post office, and a couple 15-minute spots. And then we have a couple full-day locations, including the municipal hall parking just to the south of the building. But it's not a lot when some of the businesses don't have parking available for their employees. So based on the feedback received, oh, sorry, that was the feedback. So based on the feedback received, some of the options that seemed that could address some of them was to convert all the 2-hour parking into 3-hour parking. It was the extra time for people to actually browse the businesses. It would also have one uniform mid-range time all downtown instead of having one lot that's 3 hours and then the rest 2 hours. The 17, let's switch to this one here so you can see converting the 17 parking stalls on Victoria south of Hunt Street and the 9 parking stalls on Hunt Street to 3-hour parking. That's by the, I can't remember which church that is, but the church just by Memorial Park. And that, again, just because of its proximity to downtown, having some additional 3-hour parking or 2-hour parking, if you went that way, thought would be appropriate. And then to try to address some of the employee and long-term parking, was looking at the Wharton parking along Memorial Park. It's an area where traditionally we have never done enforcement. And that's where businesses have parked in the past for longer periods of time, especially for their employees. And just thought it might be, we could just actually make that into what would be the legal time limit for that would be basically a full day parking. We wouldn't be doing enforcement over there except for overnight and that. And then also over in the alley, there's a small area there which is full day parking, and then there's 9 parking stalls in the parking lot that could be converted over to full day parking. The municipal hall parking lot, this one is already the one we're using full day parking, and we don't have a lot of parking available for clients to District Hall by doing so. So the suggestion was right in front of District Hall to convert the 9 stalls out there all to a 30-minute parking. That would for clients of Municipal Hall. And then the final one is right in front of Kelly Avenue, Broad Street Apartments. Those ones, that is a 2-hour parking area. The residents of that complex use that as long-term parking. We have not done enforcement over there. Just they don't have enough parking on site. And it's something we just kind of left and thought if we were going to look at addressing some of the other areas, maybe we could convert this one again to full day parking. And while doing more enforcement along the park side of Kelly Avenue to ensure that the apartment residents are keeping that area free for our people who want to use Memorial Park. as we have had some issues with them parking over there and taking up space. So that would leave, if this was considered something that you wanted to look at, we'd have 297 3-hour spots from the 360 currently. We'd have 80 full-time spots directly in the downtown area, as well as the available on Broad Street and Jubilee. And the Kelly Avenue would still have 36 spots right adjacent. That would be 2 or 3 hour parking for the park patrons, for Memorial Park patrons. So it addresses some of the concerns that were raised by the public without limiting our parking downtown. One other option that was raised that I didn't go into great detail on was the parking permit suggestion from the business owners. We could consider a monthly paid parking permit if we were to convert to some of these full day parking areas. If you're interested in that, we're asking that you send that back to staff so we can actually give you a full breakdown of what that would be as far as projected revenues and what we would charge. Penticton charges $60 a month for their parking permits. Even if we were at $30 at 50%, a guesstimate comes in about $15,000 per year in revenue potentially. If we were to go to this 8 hour, there are a couple of problems that I initially thought of is when we closed the road for special events, if they paid for that parking, they might be upset. But it was just something that was raised and again, for your consideration. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much. I think it's really great that you took the opportunity, because you had to do enforcement this summer more than we normally do, to get all this feedback. It's really great, and to have it all together. I think it's something that we all really appreciate. So thank you for this. Councilor, do you have questions? Go ahead, Councilor Betts.
Thank you. Well, I went through these and I definitely took it as taking the feedback and trying to bring forward some common sense changes for the community. And so on slide 4 out of 5 on the presentation slides, there's the potential options. And so I'm just going to speak to them because I had notes written down. So I'm just going to quickly go through if that's okay. So I see the 2 to 3 hour change as good. I think number 2, which is converting the stalls on Victoria South, 17 and 9. I actually think just leave those ones just unenforced because anyway, that's just what I think. I think staff, it would encourage people who work in the downtown core to also park up there. So I don't even think it needs to be labeled, but that's just what I think. Number 3, which was convert the stalls against Memorial Park to full day. Sure, people are doing it anyway. That's where they expect. And it's nice to be able to actually direct staff to some specific locations, like go park on Wharton off the main, go park on Victoria South Long Hunt. Number 4 was along in front of Municipal Hall here. I don't know, I think that leaving 2 of the 15-minute and then making the rest 3 hour also will keep things moving, just because some people might have a meeting that's an hour. So anyway, I think that could still, that's not really many changes there. And number 5 was convert the ones on the one side on Kelly against Broad Street to 2 to 3 hour, and then the other one's full day. And I think that makes sense. No paying for all day parking. I think it'll be to actually ensure that those spots are made available for people who only carry permits is going to take a lot of time. So does it actually generate revenue if it takes time to make that program happen? And then lastly, I think actually a key thing is to maintain the signs that we had last summer advertising parking at the schools. Lots of towns have like big green parking circles directing visitors. I think that's a really great way to encourage people and staff to park in those areas, and I would like to see that continued forward actually indefinitely. It's just the free parking at the schools. So that's my feedback. Anybody else?
I was hoping you keep going because my mouth is full. Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I went through all of these and I thought, oh, well, is it going to make any difference? And I don't know, and hummed and hawed and didn't see any real clear improvements and stuff. And thought, well, I guess if I can't really see anything obvious on me, I guess it really doesn't matter. And then I see the recommendation is just to accept the report and no real firm recommendation. I kind of think going from 2 hours to 3 hours is a little bit meaningless. All these tweaks, how much difference is it really going to make? So I have some definite opinions on the patios, but as far as tweaking the parking, I don't see the pressures to do that yet. And I'd be happy just to take the staff recommendation to receive the report for information. Not that it wasn't, I think it was a very useful and informative report and something that was important to do, if only to find out that, okay, this is where we're at. And, keep that for the next time we have to talk about parking when the pressure builds. But right now that the construction's over, I don't really see the pressure. The only pressure was, and the only answer I didn't have for is these people that say they need 4 hours for their hair appointments. That's not something I can relate to. Yeah, but they'll have to find the all-day parking, I guess, or I guess that's the one. And even then, you make a change, you don't know what the actual result of that change will be. If we did say all-day parking on Wharton, would it get filled up immediately and nobody can find a place at the park? So these changes might have unexpected consequences. So I'm kind of leaning towards just status quo.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I took a good look at the report, and I think it's great to have done this kind of breakdown and to consider options because of the feedback we received during the construction period. However, I'm like Councillor Barkwell. I think that what we have is reasonable, and maybe we've educated people as to where the places are that they could better go if they're going to be parking all day, such as the school parking, which I thought was a really good way to go, and I think we should keep that up. I think it also identified to people how important our non-charge for parking is when you're getting tickets and your 2-hour limit. So again, I think it was a good education. I think it was a difficult summer for our business owners and our public coming downtown, but in general, I thought we handled it pretty well. I would just, therefore, just receive this report and not change the parking that we have at present.
Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, you'll laugh. That's the one line of the report that I missed, was that it's recommended to be received for information. So rather than necessarily implementing all these changes. And, when I think about it too, I'm worried about the cost of changing all of the signs in the entire downtown. So I'm happy to move the staff recommendation to receive for information. And I just would like to keep, like I said, keep parking happening at the schools advertised moving forward. But I will move the motion.
Okay, just let me see if there's any more comments quickly. Mayor Holmes, do you have a comment or a question?
Yes, please. I think if we're going to continue enforcing parking downtown, I don't think it's a bad idea increasing it from 2 hours to 3 hours. I think giving people 3 hours downtown, it means they'll could spend more time downtown, and it's better, and that'll be better. So, but if we're not going to continue enforcing, then it's not. What's the point in making the changes and stuff? So it all depends on the level of enforcement that we intend to do. But if we're going to continue enforcing the way we did last summer, then I say, yeah, let's do 3 hours. It makes perfect sense to me. The full day Memorial Park, I like that idea. I think, though, as had been suggested, you wonder what the unintended consequences might be, especially if there's, for example, an event happening in Memorial Park and you want some turnover to allow people to attend that event. So that's the one I'm not so sure of, but I think 3 hours makes sense myself.
I agree with Mayor Holmes. I think that we should go to 3 hours, especially if that's what we heard from the feedback this summer, that people need a bit more time. I think that's a reasonable change. 3 hours is a good amount of time. And I guess, CAO, what would be our strategy for enforcement? Because the mayor is right. If we're not going to actively enforce next summer, then it doesn't really matter. But if we are, then I definitely think we should go to 3 hours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We do enforce the bylaws of the district. Last year was a particular focus given, as we know, the construction, but all our enforcement activities are guided by council's enforcement priorities. So if we wanted to continue to see some focus on parking, it's something that we could build into a work plan, especially now that council has also allocated additional dollars for the hiring of a full-time bylaw officer. So
I think that the more clear we can be with the public, the better. So if we have bylaws, then we would assume that they're being enforced. And so I think that 3 hours across the board, like if we can make it more consistent throughout town, so instead of having 3 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes, or 15 minutes is fine in front of City Hall, but the better. So that's what I would support, is Darren's recommendations for that. With regards to Memorial Park, I guess we could leave it. I want to make, the one feedback that I did get from businesses is they just want to know where they can tell their employees that it's a safe place for them to park for the day. So if we can have that communication out, that would be great, just so that they know where they can go. And then that kind of alleviates that problem. Yeah, that's my thought. Councillor Patton and then Councillor Barkville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think Darren's done a great job here, and I would have no problem in going to 3 hours. The thing that Darren's the guy with the boots on the ground that has dealt with the people in regards to these issues. And so if Darren feels that this is a good route, I'm more than pleased to support him in that regard. And I understand what you're talking about on Wharton. I can see the only real conflict, weekends we're not too worried about, but I could see the Tuesday market that they have down where the food trucks may park there may be a bit of an issue with the parking there, unless something is done with the food trucks along where the electrical chargers are, car chargers are going down Kelly. But other than that, I think Darren's done a great plan here.
So you're in support of all of the
Absolutely.
5 things? Okay. Councillor Betts.
Well, actually, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a question about the Tuesday market, because last year it was down at the waterfront, and I just didn't know, is it planning to return to Memorial Park? Does anybody know? Or is it continuing down at the waterfront on Tuesdays?
We have our Director of Community Services on, it appears to be on the screen. I know she left not too long ago. She might be walking.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, there she is. Ms. Mullen, would you like to speak to that question if you heard that?
Yeah, I can't find my camera, but you can hear me. So, so we are just still clearing up last year's Tuesday market reconciliation of payment and such. And once that's been completed, then we're going to have a meeting with the event organizers to see if they're coming back this year. I anticipate if they are requesting to come back, they're going to want to go to Peach Orchard. And I had indicated if that's something that they're interested in requesting, that we would have them come to council with their reasons on why to go to Peach Orchard versus Memorial Park, which that's the staff recommendation, is for them to come back to Memorial Park so that they can be part of the vibrant downtown and bring it back to the way it was. But ultimately that'll be council can weigh in on their desire on where that would happen. So I don't have a concrete answer yet, but it will be coming to council for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Laurie. Oh, go ahead, Mayor Holmes.
Yeah, just on the all day. I don't think it's not just Monday and Friday. It's Saturday as well. I mean, it's that's where most of the events happen, and the stores are all open, and people go shopping, and people are working there on Saturdays as well. So I think Saturday would be the crunch day.
Okay, so Council, what do we want to do? Do we want to go through 1 to 5 and decide, or do we just want to accept this for information? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Barkwell.
Well, my first choice would be just accepting for information. 40, the all-day parking is an issue, but there's 40 spots at Brown Street, and then Hunt and Victoria 15. The Municipal Hall, I don't know if we really, that's for municipal employees really, and people visiting, more so. And 2 hours versus 3 hours, I don't really quite see the need, but I wouldn't oppose it because I don't think it's going to make any difference at all. So I don't know, whatever you guys want to do, but I'll.
Mayor Holmes, is your hand up still? I see your hand raised, but I don't know if that's from before.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to lower it, but I'll comment as well. I don't really see a need for any of them except increasing up to 3 hours, and it's we did if you our revenue for parking did increase a lot over this year because of all the construction and everything, I guess, but. I just think it's if it is an issue, if 2 hours isn't enough, and it's from what I've heard, it seems like it's not for many people. Then why not just increase it to 3 hours? Then that's the only easy one for me. The rest are more difficult, so I say we'll go with the easy one. But it's not a deal breaker either way.
Okay, does anybody want to bring forward, can we bring, Kendra, do we bring forward a motion for specifics on here? Or how do you want to?
Could do two things. So if you wanted to just receive the report and no direction, it would be just that the report we received. If you wanted to increase the 2-hour time limit, the motion could just be that the downtown area parking time limit be increased to 3 hours from 2 hours, if it was that simple. And that was the only one. And then if we wanted to do a series of these, we would just do that the following downtown area parking time limits be implemented, and then we could pick. And I could just word from that.
Okay, would anybody like to bring forward a specific motion then? Go ahead, Councillor Barkwell.
Well, we already have a motion on the table. It wasn't seconded, so what happens to it?
We were still in discussion and still asking questions, so.
If it's never seconded, then you can put another motion forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead, Councillor Peak.
So I'll bring a motion forward to increase the downtown parking time limits from 2 hours to 3 hours.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Van Elfen. So with regards to this motion, any further comments on this? No? Okay, seeing none, so I'll call the question on moving it from 2 hours to 3 hours. All in favor? Great. Okay, that carries unanimously. With regards to the other options, does anybody want to bring forward anything? And if not, Kendra, do we need to have a motion to accept the rest of the report? No? Okay. Councillor Peak.
I'll bring forward to receive the report.
Kendra said that we don't need to do that.
Oh, we don't have
No.
to? Oh,
no.
Thank you, Kendra. Sorry, I didn't pick up on that.
Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you. Through to Darren. Would this be then, are all those other ones, if they're not marked, then that it's all day? Like, are the spots on Wharton currently marked? I don't think they are.
I'd have to see what new signage went up. The old signage did have 2-hour parking there, but it is also an area which I would probably encourage staff or employees to park in that area, and then maybe we wouldn't do enforcement there. Might be, this would sort of be my suggestion if that's going to be a problem. I would direct to, say, Hunt Street and Victoria first, by the church. And if we need some overflow, then maybe I could work that area. I do believe it is 2-hour parking there, or it was previously.
Okay. I'm not sure about that one.
Okay, so just to clarify then, where can we direct our employees to park then in downtown? Like those people that work along Main Street?
Right now, we can do Hunt and Victoria by the church. There's some stalls in behind the alleyway by the post office. We have the municipal hall lot here with 24 spots, and then Brown Street and Jubilee. And then during the summertime or on Saturdays, the high school.
Okay, any further discussion on parking? No? Okay, thank you very much for the report. When will the 2 hours be changed to 3 hours?
I'll have to speak with Joe and the sign department. We may need to, as far as the cost goes, it won't look as the greatest, but we can just get a 3 hours or a 3 sticker to put a place over the 2. But we'll probably have to order those. I don't know how many we have in stock. And then it'll depend on the priorities for the sign department.
Okay. Do you have one final question, Councillor Betts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I was just hoping that we could be able to make this change with like those nice reflective stickers that match signs rather than having to reprint all the downtown signs. Just my wish.
Go ahead, Councillor Peak.
I'd just like to say I'm very pleased that we did this exercise because it will show the public that we really heard what they were talking about and we've had consideration of it. And I think with the amount of shuffling around we did with the construction, it's important for our public to know that we really were listening to some of the comments that they came forward. So I really appreciate the staff doing this analysis. It was really, really well received in terms of thoughtfulness. Thank you very much, Darren.
Go ahead, Corporate Officer.
And just one final comment is once we figure out how long it will take for the stickers and the sign with Joe's department, we'll look at kind of the timing to then do a little bit of public education with the news release and to remind people that we still will be enforcing parking and this is where the changes are. So we'll give a bit of time. Our bylaw allows us to make any changes to the down and it gives us the discretion to make the changes. So the resolution is good and then we'll kind of pick a date and then work backwards with Joe and with some public education.
Okay. And I guess we can always make more tweaks as we go along to parking. You know, if, Darren, if you get more feedback, I think this is really helpful. So if you continue to hear anything else, you know, bring it forward. It's helpful for sure. So thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you, and I'm sorry to interrupt on this. So just, I think that the one thing that we might end up looking at in the future would maybe be point number 3, talking about converting some of the stalls to long-term parking. I mean, I just don't feel certain about that at this time. I think the 2 to 3 hours is sensible, but looking at for staff and volunteers, if us not converting some and creating some long-term parking downtown, if that's a shortcoming that maybe we address in the future. I'm happy with this tweak today, but I think maybe number 3 might need to come back. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to downtown patios. Bringing that up here. So downtown patio license. Who's taking that one again? Joe. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trainer. So this is just a brief update on what we currently have for the patios in the downtown area. We've got Annika, one of our eng techs, fantastic eng techs, who's sort of taken care of this project over the last 3 years since we've started it. Been really instrumental in getting them set up and taken down each year in accordance with the policy. So she's the expert on that front. But I'll just work through a couple of slides just to remind council what this policy is, what this procedure is, and just a few other stats. So originally when it was set out, we had a few aims. The first one is to provide a seasonally operated outdoor space for the purpose of serving food and beverages to seat patrons in conjunction with an existing business, to provide an extension to seating areas at low cost barrier to the business, and a safe space for patrons to visit in the downtown area. The policy created sort of areas where we may entertain sidewalk patios depending on the establishment. And so this one, I don't know how clear it is on your screen, but just generally shows it's the downtown area for the most part. Anywhere that has a sidewalk in the downtown area that makes sense. There are a few places that obviously we wouldn't allow it, in front of a fire hydrant, for example, or handicap stalls. This is taken straight out of the previous item for council. This is the number of stalls in the downtown area prior to today's decision. And so all we're trying to show here is that for the last couple of years, the number of stalls that have been used for downtown patios are on Main Street 6 and on Victoria Road 2. This is just the two examples of the ones on Main Street. So these are angled parking stalls. We've got two different types that generally we can create in the downtown area. This is the angled parking ones, and there was 2 last year, anticipating maybe just 1 in the coming year, given the closure of one of the businesses. And then we do have 1 parallel parking stall on Victoria, and that's the only parallel one that we've had so far to date. So we have heard a few things. None of this is so much formal, but these are just some of the anecdotally things that we've heard within our department, and I'm sure council has heard these and other things as well. But just some of there's some pros and cons. Obviously, the increased customer seating has definitely been a benefit for those businesses, and increased customer retention at those businesses in the downtown area. A bit of a downside that we heard from the farmers market was it did limit the space for those ones that were on Main Street. And it does limit, again, only by 8 stalls, but parking in the downtown area is something we've heard. Some people have thought that it's been underutilized for some of the establishments, in that there weren't many people actually utilizing the patio. And we have had some requests for beautification of those patios as well. But definitely the final positive for those businesses is it did increase some revenue for those. Now, I'm just showing a couple of patios in Peachland only because there are different layouts that are within our policy, and 2 of the layouts are sort of the one theme of the layout has never been used in Summerland, but it has been used in Peachland. So just to show the other option that's out there. And this is where the business actually uses the sidewalk for their restaurant area, and then they actually build a sort of a sidewalk area or a tracking area outside and around through the parking area. It's just another option for what we have. And so I just thought we'd show a couple of photos so you can see what it could look like in some of our areas of downtown. Finally.
Sure, Councillor Pete, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joe, when they do the patios like in Peachland, they actually take up a fair amount of the road traveled surface, do they not?
Through the chair, it's actually the same as what we have set up here. It does sort of look that way, but basically the patio use is right up against, for the most part, the business, the established business, and we just make it so that the walking surface would go right out to the edge of where the parking stall would be. So if you look really close at this picture, you'll see some little dashed white lines in front of the outer concrete barrier. That's the tail end of the parking stall. So that's as far back as a vehicle could park. And then they put the concrete blocks just in front of that so people can walk out almost to the lane of traffic, but not into traffic, and then back around. And obviously it would have to be a wheelchair friendly ramp to get back up onto the curb.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that explanation.
No problem. Okay, and finally, just comparing, so the cost is one of the items that we wanted to bring up with council today. So when we first put this program forward, we put in a nominal fee of $300 for the district to set up the patio areas for each of the applicants each year. And this is basically bringing down the concrete barriers, aligning them up so that it's sort of looks neat and orderly in front of the establishment. And so our costs for doing that, and we've now done it for 3 years, and it does vary from year to year if we do one in a single day or if we do all 3 at once. But for the most part, the average is about $1,100 for our crews per establishment to get them set up each year and then to get them taken down each year, because it does take a couple of crew members, and we do have to do it sort of as early as we can in the morning because they are busy areas. So our actual costs are around $1,100. We have been charging $300, so there's definitely a little bit of an offset there that the district's been supporting. So we just wanted to compare those to a couple other local governments that do it in our area. And you'll see here that Peachland varies from $525 to $700 per stall. But they also, on top of that, there's cost recovery of exactly how much it costs to put the barriers in place. So they would be right in and around, we're estimating where our costs would be if we went to $1,100 for cost recovery. And then Penticton varies from about, it says $987 to $1,200. So they are right in the same vicinity as well. So, the only recommendation that we had from this report, looking for council's feedback, is to increase our application from $300 to cost recovery of $1,100.
Just to clarify, 1,100 is for 2 stalls? Like the length of 2 stalls?
Per establishment.
Per establishment, okay, and that's for setup and takedown, 1,100.
Setup and takedown,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Peak, go ahead.
So again, I'm going to look back at the pictures of the design we have here. So the proposal is for $1,100 for 2 stalls. I noticed that on our main street, the one eating establishment, which last year would have been Gigi, this year could be a pizza parlor. So it was more than 2 stalls. Why would the eating establishment not just have 2 stalls?
Great question through the deputy mayor. So it's basically the frontage that each business has. So they actually have the frontage of 3, so they would be entitled to those 3 parking stalls. And so the price is the same. The way we have it set up, the price is the same either way. It's just your frontage that you would have the parking for. So they have 3, and I believe the Indian Bistro also has 3 stalls.
Thank you. But as the ice cream shop, 3 stalls, that would include their real estate office too. So really, they have a business license for the ice cream shop. Should it not just be that business license, not the real estate shop? It's just the way, their business is laid out, but they shouldn't be including the real estate office at all. It should just be the business license for the restaurant portion, in my opinion.
Thank you. Actually, so this is a question to the corporate officer. Is that written into the bylaw about patios? Because this is actually something that came up as well, is that just because an owner owns, say, an entire building, do they get to put a patio on the entire building or just in front of the food service business part of that building?
Through the chair to Councillor Betts, I can't say I'm super familiar with this policy. I would just have to quickly read it to see what it says. But as it is a policy, that's something if council wanted, if it's not in there, council could make that amendment.
Sure. I think my impression is that there might just be a bit of a loophole that's being taken advantage of in this circumstance. And maybe now is an opportunity to take a look at that, because there was a very large patio taken up, not just in front of its business, which also impacts how much of our staff time is going into adding concrete barricades out in front to create that patio.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Van Elfen and then online to Mayor Holmes, and then I'll get to the others.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, I just, like that whole situation there, what it does, in a lot of cases, it takes parking away from other businesses. So you could park in front of somebody else's business and go and enjoy an ice cream cone. Meanwhile, they're taking up a bunch of extra spaces. It should be on the business license. If I have one business license for an ice cream store, but I own 3 businesses along that street, it's just the one. It shouldn't be all 3, in my opinion. If we have to change the bylaw, then let's change it. But I think it's, parking is a rare commodity in our downtown core, as we just talked about. So I think we should be fair to all the businesses, because it's not fair to other businesses when somebody's parking in front of my business, let's say, and sitting in somebody else's business eating ice cream. So I think we should limit it.
Okay, Mayor Holmes?
Yeah, I wasn't sure when Joe was speaking there, whether you're entitled to 3 stalls, angle parking, regardless of the size of your storefront, or those 3 stalls have to fit in front of your storefront. But I agree with the principle that it should just be in front of the place serving, and it shouldn't be encroaching in other businesses, in front of other businesses, even if the business is owned by the same people. I think that's a principle we should make whatever amendments we can to ensure that it's only in front of the place serving. And I'm okay with the increases to recover our costs. And unfortunately, I have to go now.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Any other comments from you, Mayor? Are you good?
No, I'm good. Sorry, I can't stay for the rest.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Okay, Joe, did you have something to add before I go to Councillor Patton and then Barkwell?
Sure, just wanted to note, like the way we have it written in here is it's all sidewalk patios proposed by a business are to be located directly adjacent to the parent business frontage. So we can take that as for the ice cream, it's directly in front of the ice cream, not how many properties are owned by a business owner.
Okay, Councillor Patton and then Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so when you take a look at 2 stalls versus 3 stalls, so at 2 stalls, we would be at $550 per parking stall if we were to go with what was laid out in the plan. But yet, if you were going to go with 3 stalls, we'd be dropping that down to $367 per stall. So how I see it, if you want to have 3 stalls, then it's $550 per stall. And there's no need for us to have to discount a stall because you're going for more than 2 in front of your business. So to me, if a business wanted to have the 3 stalls, then, or maybe they only want 1 stall. 1 stall is $550, 2, 3, whatever, but at $550 increments.
The only thing is that would it make a difference if it's parallel parking or angled parking? Because if it's parallel, then you're getting more bang for your buck. Versus on Main Street, it's what's it called? Angled. So you have to have more. Like there may be more spots in front of your business.
But I don't think in our presentation that we received, it says there is no difference between an angle or the other parking stalls, unless you wanted to have 2 separate pricing levels based on what type of parking stall you're taking up. And if we think about it, this is if we were going to do for an apartment building at some point where we were charging for off-street parking or on-street parking, were we not somewhere upwards of, I know we were very low, but weren't we somewhere in the vicinity of $2,500 a stall at that time?
Councillor Barr.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So the policies, which is in the report, I was just looking at it. Then I wanted to go check the rates again. You're talking about what Peachland prices or something. It's $1,100 for us, yeah. I'm not really in favor of any sidewalk patios downtown in the future. We've got the new plaza, which is a much nicer place. You can take your food. Parking, the location for parking is very important. So being right downtown, that parking lot is worth two somewhere else. And so at the very least, I think they should only have 2 stalls. It says in the policy that staff would, there's no assurance. I'm trying to get the exact, the district retains the right to limit the number of downtown sidewalk patio licenses and the number of parking stalls used for a license area. So we can decide in the policy, and that doesn't come to council. It's staff. So I think as a council, we should have a discussion whether we really want to continue to have these patios that are very poorly used, taking up all those parking spots. As the very least, as council has already discussed, 2 spots is adequate, but I think 0 spots are adequate. Now we have that downtown area, except for the one on Victoria Street, where there is parking just there next to the post office. So it doesn't really impact the parking as much, and it is much better used than the other patios. So I'm not sure if that requires a motion to say no more patios this year. Well, we haven't even had an application. So I think at the very least, we should have an applicant come to council and make their case whether there should be a patio license for that spot in the coming year. Any comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think that would come across as very pro-business, in my opinion, on how we navigate supporting businesses in our community and how we navigate having a policy that staff put into our day-to-day operations to have an applicant come before council to request their spots. So, I disagree with where you're coming from on that one. I do agree that the patio in front of Giant's Head Brewing is better used than what I have seen from the ones on Main Street. But I think that's due to the business owners' choices about how they present their patios, which is not for us to say how they present their patios. But maybe if they do have to pay more for it, they will be incentivized to beautify so as to make their patios become more attractive, to get more people on the street, to bring more business. I think having more people on the streets in the downtown is a positive. I think it makes it look lively and makes more people want to come and spend time downtown. So it's how you look at it, but I wouldn't at this time dissuade people from businesses from coming forward requesting patios.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I couldn't agree more with Councillor Barkle. To be honest with you, I don't think we should have any patios on Main Street. I have talked to several business owners that are so frustrated with the patios because it's taken parking away from their businesses. And it's just not fair. It's cheap real estate. You couldn't ask for cheaper real estate. I'm going to move my business out into this amount of square feet for this season. So it's cheap real estate for the people with the patios. The one on Victoria, I can agree with Councillor Barkwell. There is adequate parking just down the street, but I do like what Peachland's doing, where they're tucking it up against the business and bringing that sidewalk out and around. Because right now you try to walk down Victoria Road when, that establishment is busy. And, you possibly could walk into a server coming outside, across the sidewalk with their stuff, or some patron going inside to pay a bill. This way it would be simpler. You just walk around it And as long as they're paying the fee to have it set up and possibly paying a fee to make sure the ramps are there for the wheelchairs, then it would be fine. But Main Street, unless it was, you know, something unique in the future, like you know, some type of restaurant or bistro or brewery or whatever it may be, something unique. But there was one, I'm not going to pick out a business, but there was one that sat pretty idle all year, and it just what it looked like was a construction zone with a bunch of no posts parked there and a couple of steel tables. But anytime I was there was nobody sitting there. So, you know, I think Main Street, we need the parking more so there than anywhere else. So I would agree with Councillor Barkwell, but I'd like to throw it on the table. Do we look at the Peachland approach on Victoria Road?
Okay, can I just jump in for 1 second? I would like to, I agree with raising the fee. I think cost recovery is appropriate. I would like to give it 1 more year when it comes to Main Street with the option. I think that this fee, which is, you know, quite a bit higher than what we've been charging, might eliminate some of the patios anyway. With regards to the extra seating space, why don't we see how that's used this year? So at least the businesses have the option. They might even say, you know what, I don't want to pay that money, and people get their pizza and go over to the little plaza that we have. So I think it might take care of itself. If we don't have any applications coming in next year and there's no criticism, then we can just, you know, get rid of it on Main Street. I do think it works well in Victoria. With regards to whether you go around it or, you know, around on the sidewalk or straight through, I've never noticed a huge issue, but I mean, I'm sure during busy times, you know, there is a possibility of running into a server. I would be okay with either one. I mean, whatever works best for everybody. But that's kind of where I stand. Anyone else? Councillor Peak?
One of the reasons I spoke about doing some sunshades in the Veteran Square, because I think that that kind of seating promotes people coming to sit down. And the patios that have gone on Main Street, for the most part, have had umbrellas. I've sat out in front of Just Delicious. And while I haven't done my takeout from the East Indian restaurant and sat there, that's another option because they're both side by side, so it's a larger patio area. I do agree with increasing the cost, and I think that for eating establishments for business owners, that two stalls are enough rather than creating a larger sectioning. So those would be my comments to make on this. As whether it comes into the sidewalk and done like Peachland, it goes out around it. I think if you have a busier delivery, if it is a bistro or a restaurant, you're more likely to have those difficulties if the servers are coming outside. If it's just people bringing their own food out, I'm inclined to think that the way we have it set up now works best.
Yeah, first in response to Councillor Pett's comment, I don't view I don't think there's a message that we're not pro-business if we don't have the patios, because I think it's actually a pro-business not to have the patios because they take up parking spots in front of their place, and the people that would go to the restaurant are now have to park in front of the other business place. And they have to, I don't know if it's a clothing store next to it, well, that, or, you know, the restaurant customer is probably parking in front of the clothing store instead of the restaurant customer, so you're taking away from theirs. So at the very least, it's, you know, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. It's not anti anything, it's benefiting one. And I'm familiar with the walk around thing, and I used to have to walk around off the sidewalk and around the restaurant and back on Penticton all the time, and it just didn't really seem necessary. I've been to the Victoria Street location more than once. Never seen a real issue, but I can't object to it either. It's just whether there's enough pressure to do the walk around. I think it's actually kind of nice because the people who walk along the street then stop and say hello to the people who are having their beverage in the patio area. So not a big deal one way or the other, but I definitely don't think it's anti-business to say take your food over to the new plaza.
Okay, so the suggested resolution is to increase the fee from 300 to 1,100. Do we want to deal with that now? Councillor Van Elfen?
I'll move the staff. I'll move the staff recommendation.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Patton? Okay, any other comments specifically on the increasing the fee? Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
I just hope that, I can see the argument for cost recovery. I hope that the businesses who invest in having a patio invest in making it a space that guests want to come and beautify our downtown.
I see it as definitely really cheap real estate, especially as Councillor Patton reminded us that if you don't want to not provide parking for a location in downtown, it costs $2,500 soon to go up, I expect, with the new charges and DCCs and such. I wonder though, why do we make them temporary? Why not save the cost? If you're going to have it, which I'm not really in favor of, but if you're going to have it, why not just leave it in there all year and save the cost of moving all those barriers every year? And that's Public Works has an answer for that.
Through the Deputy Mayor. Good point. We can leave them up, but we do deal with things. We do try to paint the lines if we can each year. But if it's permanent, we wouldn't need the lines. We do snow removal, working around those areas, and then just to bring the parking stalls back through the winter season. I know it's not busy, but yeah, that's what we've got.
I think it looks tidier to take them away, because then they really are just sitting there empty. If it, during the winter time. Councillor Patton.
I like your thoughts, but I certainly wouldn't want to give that site up for $1,100 a full year.
Okay, so if we have no further comments, we have a motion on the table. It's been seconded, so I will call the question then. All in favor?
This is
Great.
for the 1,100, right?
Yes, for the 1,100, yeah. And none opposed? Okay, so that carries. Does anybody else have any other concerns then with regards to the patios for now? Go ahead, Councillor Barkwell.
I don't know if it requires a motion, but I think there's at least a consensus that they should be limited to two parking stalls per business. Do we need a motion for that? Or is that just sort of direction to staff when they're, avoiding, because it's in the policy, it's entirely up to the staff, I guess.
Thank you. I mean, I don't feel that it's a clear consensus. Two of you spoke to it, but I don't have enough information to say whether it's 2 or 3, depending on the, width of the business, whether they front on 2 or 3 parking spots. I just don't have that information right now in front of me, and I wouldn't vote on it at this time.
Anyone else have any comments? To me, it makes sense just to be right in front of the business. So the width of your business is the width that you get for your patio. Councillor Peak?
If there isn't a clear indication that 2 might be sufficient, perhaps it's a policy that staff could come back and clarify it with. Not talking about costing, but the policy, whether where it fits in front of the business itself.
Kendra?
Through the chair, just to kind of answer all the questions around the table. So the policy does state that a maximum of 3 parking stalls may be used per sidewalk patio license. If council was wanting it to only be a maximum of 2, I would just recommend that the policy be amended to change that from 3 to 2.
I'll put a motion forward to amend it to 2.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to reduce from 3 to 2. Anybody have any comments? Councillor Betts.
Thank you for the opportunity in this discussion. So I think that like we're talking about two different types of parking stall, right? And one is angle parking and one is parallel parking. So they are different widths. Chances are that a business that fronts, that is say the size of one of the smaller units, say like the former Gigi's, if that patio was actually that size, maybe it would be 2 stalls, but it's on angle parking. So if it's the next size up, it might be that that ends up taking 3 stalls worth because it's on an angle. I just think that we're hamstringing our works department to be able to just implement these patios for businesses with council kind of micromanaging and getting in the way when there's 2 different types of parking that we're talking about here, angle and parallel. If you want to go by the width that the parallel parking is and each person gets that amount, that's fine, but that's not accommodating for that the businesses have different widths because they're all different types of buildings.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Again, any further comments? If not, I'll call the question. Okay, all in favor of reducing from 3 to 2? Okay, so that's 4 opposed. Okay, that carries. So that policy is now reduced from 3 stalls to 2 stalls. Okay. Any further comments? Move on? Okay. Thanks for the discussion. So moving on to 9.5. This is over to Dana.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trainer. So the district has been leasing a portion of 8240 Peach Orchard Road to the Pagliocini family continuously since at least January 1st, 2000. Although this parcel is on Peach Orchard Road, the leased portion is accessible through Vanderburg Avenue. The Pagliocini family owns an adjacent property located at 14419 Vanderburg Ave, and the leased area, which is the narrow strip of land outlined in black, runs the length of the south end of their property. The lease area is highly integrated with their property, with multiple separate fenced areas straddling both the leased area and the Pagliocini family's adjacent property. The current lease agreement has expired, but is holding over. The leaseholders originally expressed interest in purchasing the leased portion of the land. However, due to zoning constraints, the leased area wouldn't be able to be purchased as a standalone parcel and would instead need to be amalgamated into the adjacent property. The Pagliocinis declined to purchase based on those conditions, but they are interested in continuing to lease the land. Under the community charter, the district is prohibited from providing below market lease rates to businesses. And as the lease area is classified as agricultural land with farm status from BC assessment, staff understand that this land is used for business purposes, i.e. farming. As such, the district is required to charge fair market rate for the lease. So there are several mechanisms that can be used to establish the fair market lease rate. With some parcels, we're able to advertise the property for lease and solicit offers. However, that approach isn't recommended in this case because the lease area is so highly integrated into the adjacent parcel. Another option would be to obtain a fair market rental valuation report from a licensed appraiser. However, appraisals typically cost between $2,500 to $5,000, and these costs would need to either be borne by the district or the leasee. So in cases like this, when the cost of a market rental valuation report would represent a disproportionate cost in comparison to the potential lease revenue, staff sometimes look to the province of British Columbia's Crown Land pricing policy. As the province has established this policy, we're able to rely on it as representing fair market value. We also sometimes see appraisers refer to this policy as an input in their appraisals. So the Crown Land pricing policy has different rates for different land use categories. Although this lease area is not Crown land, the corresponding use under the province's policy would be agricultural use and intensive use area, which relates to smaller scale agricultural use on parcels 15 hectares or less in size, as opposed to agricultural extensive, which relates to large scale agriculture. The agricultural intensive use currently stipulates a lease rate of 5% of BC assessment's assessed land value per year, with a minimum fee of $850 per year. BC assessment's assessed value of the property is $2,400 for assessment and taxation purposes, due to its status as farmland. So this would result in a lease fee of $120. However, because this amount is less than the minimum lease rate of $850, the minimum lease rate therefore applies. So the minimum lease rate would be $850 per year. The current lease rate is $120 per year. A staff report for that lease indicates that the lease rate was likewise established using the Crown land pricing policy, and the BC assessed value of the property at that time was likewise $2,400, and the policy likewise recommended a rental rate of 5% of the assessed value. But it was unclear whether a minimum lease rate was in effect at that time or if that was something that was missed. So the proposed lease rate does represent a significant increase over the current lease, but we're unable to rely on the Crown land policy if we don't apply the minimum lease rate. The Pagliocinis were offered the opportunity to obtain a fair market rental valuation report at their own cost, but declined. So staff therefore recommend entering into the new lease agreement with the Pagliocinis as presented and request approval from the mayor and corporate officer to execute the lease once the statutory requirements have been met. Over to you if there are any questions.
Just a few details there. Council, do you have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to Dana. So they're not, I was trying to get clarity, they're not interested in purchasing this sliver of land?
Through the mayor, yes, they're not interested in purchasing this piece of land and amalgamating it with their existing parcel. They'd only be interested in purchasing it if they were able to purchase it as a standalone parcel. And Development Services wasn't supportive of that approach due to the zoning constraints.
Okay, thank you.
I think that the work that you've done to bring this to us is very reasonable, and I think that this is, well, being higher than what the family have paid in the past is reasonable in terms of what stands now. So I appreciate it, and I think that this is the way we should go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Dana, right now, is this cherries? Do you know what they grow on there right now?
Through the chair, I'm not sure what was planted.
So when you take a look at that piece, because that's, when we have snow, that's a good snow dumping ground is where we put it there on Peach Orchard. But to me, $850 seems a little excessive, to tell you. Only for the fact is they take care of the property, they irrigate the property. You know, by the looks of how much fruit they might recoup off that, it almost seems, I'm not a farmer, but it looks like it would be hit and miss if they would even get a profit off of that sliver for $850. But we'll ask the farmers in the gallery here if they are on the table.
Go ahead, Councillor Barkle.
You know, for the longest time, and maybe I'm out of date, but orchard land is leased for taxes and water. And so our water fees are what, $250 an acre now? And taxes are minimal. So farmland doesn't lease for very darn much money. $850 is probably the very high end of, you know, that would be $8,500 for 10 acres. I don't know if anybody does that. It's just not that profitable in farming.
Go ahead.
I don't know, can Development Services explain to me why this can't be a standalone piece of property? You're not going to be able to build on it. Obviously, it's, I think 99.9% of it would be red zone because of the banks there. But why can't it be a standalone parcel of property?
Sorry, I wasn't through the chair to Marty, I wasn't consulted on this one, but just from looking at it, it's probably parcel size, right? It has to be a certain size and it has to have access. So, and it looks like it does off the left-hand side. So it's probably parcel size.
I can understand why they didn't want to get a survey, get this sliver surveyed and amalgamated, because the costs would be more than what the property is worth. I went through it with my neighbor. He sold him 5 feet of land. He, you know, because it was worth it to him because the fencing was all wrong and stuff like that. But gosh, I sure shook my head when the paperwork and the costs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I heard the same. Julie, could we, even though if it has something to do with parcel size, couldn't we do a site specific? Could we not do something in regards, as the municipality, we do have the ability to vary. And could we not vary for this parcel size if they wanted to buy it so that we could actually sell that piece of property, even though it has access, but perhaps it is a little small, but could we not vary that for this site specific on this piece?
Sorry, Bobby just messaged and said it's because of septic system, but I would have to look into it. I'm sorry. This is the first, but you're right. It could be in some circumstances.
Thank you. So if Bobby's concerned about sewage, why wouldn't we do a lot line amalgamation where the lot line then would go right out and then we don't have to worry about the existing sewer on that property? And we wouldn't have to worry about being a separate lot. Food for thought.
The Pagliocinis weren't interested in a lot line adjustment to bring this into the existing parcel. I believe there's a shared ownership of 14419 Vanderburg, which complicates it. So they were hoping to be the sole owners of a separate parcel rather than amalgamating it into the existing.
Okay, do you have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, Councillor Patton. Well, we tried different options, so if this is what they are happy with, then that's good. Okay, any further comments? Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, I think that our hands are a little tied. Like, I can see that as a lease rate, this is high for what that offers, which is really, I think, frustrating and disappointing for them. But if we have to use that Crown Land framework to be able to offer that rate, and then it has that minimum that's built in, which unfortunately is kind of punitive towards small properties, which is interesting if they want to have farmers leasing, like young farmers leasing small awkward parcels to encourage farming. So maybe this is room for the province to actually wiggle on some weird legislation, but for that reason, I'll support the motion.
Okay, seeing no further comments then, I'll call the question on the proposed resolution. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thank you, Dana. Okay, 9.6 fee and charges amendment bylaw.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trainer. So before council is the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 2026-004. This bylaw is purely an administrative correction to Schedule A, the electric rates. So what we learned, or what it seems that happened in the most recent fees and charges update, an old bylaw was, an old template bylaw was used previous to, I want to say June of last year. Prior to when council made the wording and provided direction on the distributed generation program. So by adopting the ones in December, we effectively reverted back to the direction from, let's say, I think it was like about March or May, or March, kind of that spring timeline, when council in July had adopted amendments to it. So this bylaw is really just before council to correct that, because we obviously have to correct it by bylaw. And then one thing we noticed just prior to the council, or after the agenda was published, is the temporary patio license is also not included. So this resolution is to adopt essentially to revert back to the previous language in the distributed generation program, but it will need to read that it be read a first, second, third time as amended to include the temporary patio license fee, as that's never been in the bylaw, so we actually should have never been charging it. And so now we have a fee, we should put it in there.
Councillor Van Elfen.
I'll move the staff recommendation.
Okay, so everybody clear? This just basically corrects a mistake and includes the patio fee. We have a mover. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Peak. Any further questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if this is a question for Jeremy or Dave, but I noticed that it said that one of the surpluses was over $300 would be paid out, and one of them was over $100 would automatically be paid out with the distributed generation. And, you know, Dave was concerned about finances and how much it costs to administer the program. So I just was wondering about not directly paying people out on $100.
CAO. Sorry, I don't know. I don't know exactly.
Can you say that one more time for me?
Yeah, can you say it one more time?
Maybe. Well, okay, so I just noted that, okay, on page 5 out of 55, for one, that when it comes to the rates and charges with distributed generation, produced energy, that any energy in excess of consumption, banked, and any surplus over $100 as of December 31st will be paid to the customer. Less than $100 as of December 31st will be applied as a credit to the customer's electric account. I'm just wondering why that's $100 when maybe, like Dave was very concerned about the cost of administering the program. $100 is a low threshold for holding an account or carrying over a credit. Why don't we just increase that credit so that our finance department isn't paying out surplus over $100?
Thank you for clarifying through the mayor, or through the deputy mayor. I recall a discussion now. I don't know the extent to which Dave is super concerned about that. I remember him reflecting some of those comments. We might have lost him to another meeting at 2:30, so I'm just going to see if he's back on now. Yeah. Dave, are you there? He might not be. Yeah, I think he texted me and said he had to go to another meeting at 2:30. Maybe I can circle back with him and get you a proper answer to your question on that and go from there. I don't think we're prepared to respond to that at the moment.
Thank you. And so for me, it's just like we're voting on this bylaw change, but I feel like that's, you know, a relatively important part of the program in that it affects the finance department and the administrative costs. So that's why I'm bringing it up. I don't know if we can defer that decision until we have more information to the next meeting.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Betts, I'm looking at this and all I'm seeing, and please direct me where I'm wrong, but it says any surplus over 300 will be paid to the, any surplus over 300 as of December 31st will be paid to the customer. Any surplus of 300 or less as of December 31st will be applied as a credit to the customer's electric account. So where's the $100 coming into play?
So you're looking at page 6, which is for new customers as of April 15th, 2025. And then the previous page on page 5 is for our grandfathered customers. But so
thank you.
The grandfathered customers are the ones who are going to be paid enduringly the retail rate on their energy and are more likely to have a higher account balance, dealing like directly relating to having a higher credit likely to be paid out to those individuals. Anyway, I'm just wondering if we can hold that credit to a higher amount so that we're not just paying out when they're just going to use it on the next month's bill.
So council can do that through the deputy mayor. I just was reluctant to say we should do that right now without David here. But maybe what we do, we could always adopt and accept this, and then we can bring back a further amendment if necessary, once I get a chance to talk to David. Nothing's written in stone, but we should get right with this existing error that's been discovered, and so we should, get that in the books, and then I will circle back with council when I talk to David. I see he's still caught up in his other meetings, so unfortunately, it's a billing question.
I think what the CEO says makes good sense. Mike, deal with it now, and if Dave has an issue, we can always do another amendment. My question is the part that Kendra had spoken about patio fees. Where was that? What was that? Sorry, I missed the. Could you tell me where you were inserting about patio fees and where?
So through the chair to Councillor Barkwell. So as we were looking at the downtown patio license policy, there is a fee in that policy,
Right.
which council just increased. And it's not included in the fees and charges. And local government can't charge a fee that's not in a bylaw. So when it's only in a policy, it has to be included in the bylaw. So we just didn't catch it at the time of drafting the bylaw. So if we read it as a third time as amended, when it comes back for adoption, it would be included.
Okay, because I was looking for something about patios in here and I didn't see it. So you're going to add it.
Yes,
All right,
yeah, it's
okay,
just
now
not in there.
that's where I
Yeah.
didn't catch.
Sorry, that is confusing.
Now we have the ability to charge a fee for the patios. We did not before. Okay. All right, everybody good for now? Okay, so our CAO will come back when he gets an answer from David about that grandfathered fee. Okay? Okay. So I'll call did we have it on the table? Oh, huh? Yeah, we do. Do we have a seconder?
It was,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Great. Okay, that carries. Thank you. After we're done, we'll take a break soon. Okay, let's just get these next two done. So 9.7 is the appointment of a chief election officer and deputy chief election officer for the 2026 general local election this year. Kendra?
So thank you, Deputy Mayor Trainer. So the Local Government Act requires each local government to appoint the chief election officer and a deputy chief election officer for the purposes of conducting an election. These appointments are required so that we can commence preparations for the election. General voting day will be held on October 17th of this year, and before council and on the screen is the resolution to appoint the chief and deputy chief election officers for the 2026 general local election.
It's pretty straightforward. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you. Just a quick question through Deputy Mayor. Do we have a choice on other people? Just kidding. Well, I'll move the staff recommendation.
No, maybe we shouldn't have an election.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Okay, I need one of you guys to second this.
Yeah.
Councillor Betts? Okay, so it's presented on the screen there. I'll call the question. All in favor? Great, that's carried unanimously. Okay. And then on to 9.8. This is appointing any councillors to go to FCM in, I think it's at the end of May. Yes. Would anybody like to go? So Councillor Barkwell and I would both like to go. Does anybody else want to go? No? Okay. Councillor Van Elfen?
I'll move the staff recommendation that Barkwell and Trainer go.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Peak? Just waiting for yeah. Okay, there we go. All right. Any further discussion on this? I think Richard and I learned a lot last year, and we both brought back reports. And I would be happy to represent Summerland again. I found it a very useful conference. Learned a lot, especially about grants, and I advocated for grants for small towns, so I will continue to do that in Edmonton. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to make note that the mayor had let me know about there was an opportunity for a grant for like first term counselors to attend, but just that time of year isn't really feasible for me to travel. So I just wanted to say I appreciate being thought of it, and maybe I'll have an opportunity next term, but thanks.
I hope so. Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Great, that's carried unanimously. So Richard and I will go to FCM at the end of May. Great, okay. So bylaws for adoption. Don't have any items removed from our consent agenda. Councillor Betts, would you like to go first? You had a couple items.
Sure. Item F was actually a letter of correspondence, but basically I just wanted to bring it to our attention because it's a request from the federal government for $200,000 in funding for rapid eDNA detection to help fight the battle against the mussels, the invasive quagga and zebra mussels, and I think the new golden mussel, I think they called, into the Okanagan Basin, and just calling on the federal government to put an eye to the Okanagan and how important this really is in our region. And I just thought it was worth calling attention to. I feel like the Okanagan Basin Water Board is doing some really good work and in their advocacy and continuing to push for support for our region, which I think is just incredibly important after witnessing what's happened in the Great Lakes region with how much destruction and cost to local governments and to tourism across the board. So I just think this work's really important, and I really hope that the federal government can see the value in supporting this grant request.
Okay. And you had another item?
Yep. The other one I brought forward was letter M from the Ministry of Citizen Services, just making note that we were successful in our UBCM mission to kind of bring services from, and this was brought up earlier in the CAO report, that the Service BC pilot is going to approved for Summerland, going to bring services here to our residents, and I just thought that that's just so great, beyond what's already offered at our 2 local businesses that offer insurance and driver's license services. So I just thought that was a nice takeaway from advocacy on council's part to UBCM to get services in our community. Thanks.
CAO, can you remind us when Service BC will be coming to Summerland?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. We were targeting early 2026, so I sent them a follow-up email. They're coming out. We haven't set this date yet because they've had some changes in staff on their end, but they're coming out in the next few weeks, it sounds like, to scope out the spot that they would be working from in the municipal hall. And it is considered a pilot sort of trial program, but we do hope that we'll see maybe even a couple, 2-3 days a week of their presence here, and then we'll see what we can learn from that and how it assists our residents.
Okay, great. So once that service is available, we'll share that information. Perfect. Okay, thank you, Councillor Betts, for bringing that out. And then Councillor Barkwell, you had speculation and vacancy tax consultation.
Yeah, so this letter invites feedback concerning the speculation and vacancy tax. And you recall that the mayor recently wrote to the Minister of Finance saying that the speculation and vacancy tax should stay in the communities it's raised, and we could use it to support our agricultural areas. Perhaps, even though they kind of rejected that idea the first time, we should make that our feedback, since they are giving us an opportunity to have a comment and not let them forget about that. I don't know if it'll be through the mayor or the CAO, but they're inviting feedback by January 31st.
I thought that's what the mayor did just do, right? He submitted his feedback?
Is it was in response to this letter that we... I thought it was just out of they said, give us some ideas of how you could raise money. And that's what we suggested to them. And I don't know if it was in this particular feedback program, but the CAA would know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was directly in response to this particular feedback program, but he did write in. We can look and see if we should augment that with a specific response in relation to what we're trying to do on the ag municipalities piece.
Okay, we got a response about the from the Ministry of Finance on the agricultural. Okay. So I'm getting, there's many
But-
letters that the mayor has been writing to the province, so it's hard to keep track of them all.
But in true government style, the response was they're directing it to agriculture. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you. I really was actually kind of digging into this SVT, the speculation vacancy tax report, and they were very specific in that any of this collected tax is put entirely in towards, and I think through BC Housing, and it's supposed to be for housing related matters in communities. So I don't know that we'll have success trying to target it towards any agricultural infrastructure opportunities in our community because it's specific down in there. But I did note that Summerland, has like $1.155 million in tax collected, but that the BC Housing spend in the Okanagan Similkameen in 2025 was $35 million. So I will note that those investments are being made in housing and affordable housing here, but I don't think we're going to see success trying to get that money into agricultural infrastructure funding.
Yeah, the rationale the mayor used, and I think that we should continue to use, is that, yes, we want to see it to go into affordable housing. In the past, the district has supported affordable housing to the tune of, what is it, nearly $2 million. This would allow, if these funds could take place of what the district has been doing in the past, then we would have more money to support the rural areas, because we wouldn't have to be also supporting affordable housing like we've done in the past. That was the rationale. That's how it was related.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I totally agree. It might have been in the Okanagan a $35 million investment, but truth of the matter is those are long-term loans. So the money that we're collecting from the vacancy tax should come into Summerland, and BC Housing is using that as a business for funding their operations. So for the next 30 years, they'll be collecting their money back, where District Summerland, in regards to these taxes, in the next 30 years, we won't see anything. So I think that, it's a good idea.
Okay. Let's see here. So we need to accept those three items. Okay, can I get a motion? Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Betts, all in favor of accepting those three items? And let's see where we are now. Okay, so I guess we can close our meeting to the public now. So can I get a resolution for items, the community charter 91A, C, E, G, and I? Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Peak, all in favor?